Who is the worst AEW signing of all time? It's a loaded question. If I throw that question out to all of you watching this video, I'd probably have hundreds of different answers in the comments. You might say Ric Flair or Parker Boudreaux, or some people might even say CM Punk. A lot of people also say Mercedes Mone, which I have said I disagree with because for me, the worst AEW signing of all time is a wrestler who was signed for no reason other than that AEW didn't want WWE to have them. And as a result, their career has been absolutely wasted away, and AEW clearly never had any sort of long-term vision for them. Because the worst AEW signing of all time isn't Mercedes Mone, it's her former muscle, Kamille. Kamille went from being a former NWA Women's World Champion and a hot commodity in the free market agency to being signed by AEW, and within a year, her future with the company already being up in the air. So how did we get here? Well, to figure that out, we have to go back to the start. So like the video and let's get into it. Kamille made her wrestling debut in 2017 under the name of Kamille Kane and began working the regional independent scene, but would get her first bit of exposure in 2018 when she would make her first of many appearances for the National Wrestling Alliance, as she made her NWA debut on the NWA 70th anniversary show under the Kamille Kane name, debuting as Nick Aldis's insurance policy to equal the odds against Brandy Rhodes for his world title match against Cody Rhodes. She'd continue to accompany Aldis in NWA as his valet through the rest of the year and would get even more exposure in 2019 when NWA Power began airing weekly on YouTube, and she was now under the new ring name of Kamille. On that show, she was still by Aldis's side as the two of them would help form the Strictly Business stable alongside Tom Latimer, Royce Isaacs, and eventually Chris Adonis. She also wouldn't have her first NWA match until 2020, all the while she also had remained silent and never said a word in the NWA and never even spoke, but she finally would on the same night she had her first match. Her next appearances and matches for the NWA though were delayed as the pandemic took them off the air, and when the NWA did eventually return to air, the roster was much thinner, and so an opportunity for Kamille to break through was presented, as NWA would very much take that, and on their return show Back for the Attack, Kamille would defeat Thunder Rosa, who was easily the top female in the NWA and was on her way out of the company. This win against Thunder Rosa earned her a shot at the NWA Women's World title, which she would challenge Serena Deeb for at When Our Shadows Fall, and Kamille would get her biggest victory to date here as she won the NWA Women's World title from Serena Deeb in this match. And from here, Kamille was positioned as the top female in the NWA, and she was on top by a lot. There was nobody really anywhere near her level on the roster for a long while. Kamille this year would also actually make her first appearances for AEW when she appeared on Dynamite to promote her match with Layla Hirsch at the upcoming NWA Empower show, which was NWA's first and only all-female card and was a great success for the NWA, with the aforementioned match between Kamille and Layla Hirsch being a great match and a big hit on the show. Kamille of course retained, and then retained again the next night on NWA's anniversary show, beating Chelsea Green. Kamille would then go on to beat the likes and retain her belt against the likes of Taryn Terrell, Melina, Kenzie Page, Kiera Hogan, Kylie Ray, Chelsea Green, and on the 1-year anniversary of her reign, defeated Kylie King at Always Ready 2022. Kamille was having a dominant reign, and 2022 would also be the year that Strictly Business disbanded and Nick Aldis departed the company, and so Kamille more or less became the top name in the company as a result. And no, don't even think about trying to argue in the comments that I'm wrong and it was actually Tyrus. Don't even try. She continued her long reign well into 2023 as she continued to dominate the division and beat the likes of Taya Valkyrie, Max the Impaler, Natalia Markova, and others, before finally on night 2 of NWA's 75th anniversary show in September 2023, she was beaten by Kenzie Page for the belt, officially ending her reign at 813 days and putting over Kenzie Page as the next top woman in the NWA. And after she lost this match and lost her belt, many figured that this was being done because she'd be on her way out of the NWA, and sure enough, she would stick around with the NWA for a few months more before in January 2024 her contract with the NWA expired and she departed from the company. And thus a bidding war between WWE and AEW began for Kamille, with both companies interested in signing Kamille, and of course ultimately AEW would beat WWE to get her signature as she signed for AEW in February of 2024. And following her signing would proceed to sit at home doing nothing with no communication from AEW and no plans for her debut in place for many months, with Kamille obviously not being very happy about that. However, she would finally make her AEW debut at July's Blood and Guts event as she attacked Britt Baker and officially became the muscle for TBS champion Mercedes Mone. She had her first match the next week squashing a local jobber, and then the next week she beat another two jobbers in a handicap match. Her next couple matches were on Rampage, all once again squash matches, as she still hadn't had a proper singles match yet, and we were in October now. That was until Queen Aminata had a match with her on the 23rd of October Dynamite, where she got the win in a match that actually went more than 3 minutes. And this was done to prepare her for her next match, which would be the very next week against Chris Statlander, in a women's hoss match where Kamille would suffer her first defeat. This match took place because Statlander was feuding with Mercedes Mone over her TBS championship, and following Kamille being defeated, Kamille was pretty much buried for the very rest of this feud. She was constantly being destroyed by Statlander every week, with Mercedes Mone herself throwing her to the wolves every week and just making her look like a total jabroni. And after continuous mistreatment to Kamille from Mercedes Mone, the two would officially split on the Thanksgiving Dynamite, ending their alliance at just over 4 months long. Kamille seemingly turned face in this interaction, and so it was going to be interesting to see where she went from here and how AEW were going to book her and use her. But sure enough, days later on Rampage, Kamille was found laid out backstage surrounded by chairs, seemingly a mystery attacker angle, but Kamille has not been seen or mentioned on AEW since this, and I have a feeling that AEW did this angle not to set up a match or anything with her, but instead to write her off TV because they don't have any plans for her. Camille's entire AEW run from the start has just been weird, and the entire thing just screams that AEW never really wanted Kamille and only signed her in order to make sure that WWE couldn't get her. Even from the start it was weird. She didn't debut for 4 months until after she signed, just sitting at home. She debuted as the muscle for a champion, which isn't a bad spot to start off in, but also the same starting point she had in the NWA years prior. But from there she only had like 2 actual matches, and when they finally had her show a bit of character, they write her off TV immediately with some shoddy mystery attacker storyline, which I'm almost certain just isn't gonna go anywhere. I just can't see AEW ever coming back to this angle, back to this storyline with the mystery attacker, and I think there's even a chance that we could just never see Kamille again because AEW has no clue how to use her. You'd think they would have done a match between her and Mercedes Mone, and apparently there were plans for this to happen, but I doubt it ever happens and they never revisit it. And hey, even if they do revisit it, it's a heatless match because Kamille hasn't been mentioned for months, and she was written off in an angle that hasn't even been referenced once on a show that doesn't even exist anymore. I don't know what the plan is or was for this with who attacked Kamille. Was it going to be Mercedes or just someone else? I don't think there was ever a plan. It'll never be revisited, and we'll never find out who attacked Kamille, and it's just never brought up ever again, and AEW just hopes all the fans forget it, which I believe most of them probably already have. I think Kamille is a pretty good wrestler, but there's still lots of improvements to make. She has a great look and can easily be packaged as a star with just a bit of build, of which AEW really did none. Like, they didn't even try. It's coming up to a year since she signed to AEW, and she's only had 6 matches, of which only 2 went over the 3-minute mark. I can't help but feel AEW has just absolutely wasted Kamille's career away, and I have no doubt that she'd be in a much better place if she was in the WWE, and I hate to say it, but she is just the exact kind of wrestler that Triple H would just love, surely. Overall, it's safe to say that Kamille's run in AEW has been a major bust. From 813 days spent as the NWA Women's Champion, just to get her big break and wrestle only 6 times in a single year. Ouch. Guys, that's it from me though. Let me know down below in the comments who you think is the worst AEW signing of all time. Though Kamille has been not a very good signing for AEW, I don't think she's the worst ever. Definitely the worst in recent memory though, and of the last year or so. Be sure to also leave a comment with your thoughts on Kamille in AEW so far and everything surrounding Kamille's weird and turbulent run in All Elite Wrestling thus far. And be sure to like this video if you did enjoy it, and subscribe with those notifications on so you never miss a video on the Top 10 Wrestling channel, all sorts of wrestling content on here. I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye, and keep on rolling.